those ballots.
That's right, exactly. They run them through a high-speed scanner. People can get them on CD. It's very helpful to candidates, too. Recounts are extremely expensive. Every now and then, the registrar has told me there, a candidate will come in and say, let me just, look at the ballots. I feel uncomfortable with something I thought I should have won. And then they look at the ballots, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, okay.
That's an excellent, simple solution that would go a long way to restoring honesty to it. As you point out, there's not any perfect system, but the system that we have now is very, very easily manipulated from beginning to end. One of the things we didn't mention, of course, was even gerrymandering. That's one way they get to pick the voters, and so that's been with us from the very beginning. We see that happening, as well as ballot access. But I think the thing that really concerns most people is the counting of the votes being honest, that they're really legitimate voters, and the votes are being counted legitimately. But when they turn up errors, as we were talking just before the interview began, you talked about how there's essentially kind of a culture of lying. Once mistakes or frauds are found, they essentially disown it. And go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. This is something that I've been discovering in my research, and it's not just a sporadic problem. It is a culture, and I think it must be fostered somehow in the election training or whatever, where something will come up, an impossible number, for example. You have more votes than voters. And this happened, here's a perfect example, because sometimes it's good to have it concrete. In Memphis, Tennessee, Shelby County, I got his own records. And using his own records from the election administrator, I could see that there were 3,000 more votes than voters. And he said, no, there's not. So I took it to the press, to the newspapers, and this is where the press needs to do their job better and focus on the records, not just a statement. Because the newspaper reported, well, Beth Harris says there's 3,000 more votes than voters, but election administrator Richard Holden says there's not. Because she doesn't know what she's looking at. So I wrote the reporter and said, get the records, ask him to give them to you, count. I mean, that's not, how hard is that? And it gets worse than that, by the way. In that situation, he later admitted in court that there were more votes than voters, and he admitted to his elections board that not only were there more votes than voters, but he couldn't find the reason why, he said. But it was human error.
Well, that's exactly what we see once they get elected, too. And they're part of the people who are committing this fraud, as you're pointing out. They're insiders. They're part of the political process. When we catch the politicians or lawmakers doing something wrong, their strategy is just to deny that it happened, even when presented with hard, cold evidence. Well, thank you so much for...
That is actually a culture. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. I'd love for the voters to really get serious about seeing a reform in the electoral process from the very beginning to try to make these things more honest. You gave us a very simple example of how they corrected that, or not making it 100% honest, but certainly something that's going to be very effective at combating fraud in California. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be watching your website.
Thank you.
Thank you. So even though we may not have a lot of confidence in these election results, that's their story, and they're going to be sticking to it. So stay with us. We're going to have more results and analysis of this election. We'll be right back.
Globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding and making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
The brainwashing media machine has been turned up on high, and it's time for humanity to double down on the true people's media and strike back against the tyrants that are destroying our civilization with their lies and fraud. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the info war. It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and Prison Planet prisonplanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at prisonplanet.tv. I want to know what's really happening with Ebola. I want to know if there are things out there that could protect this country and protect my 3 children, just as you do. Government can't and won't protect you from Ebola. It is up to all of us to be prepared and to protect ourselves. I'm not sitting back waiting for the government to come protect me and take care of me. It's why I'm doing everything I can to boost my body's natural defenses. That's why I've got storable foods. That's why I've got my colloidal silver from InfoWarsLife.com, the silver bullet. That's why I've got nascent iodine X2 that has absolutely supercharged my personal body's defenses. I personally have gotten prepared, and I recommend everybody else get prepared as well. So visit InfoWarsLife.com today to find the most cutting-edge, hardcore supplements on the planet. Or call the InfoWars staff, and we can answer your questions or take your order over the phone at 888-253-3139.
And because early voting runs through this Friday, you don't have to wait until Election Day. You can vote all week.
The Rio Arriba County Clerk's Office reported this afternoon that a voter trying to cast an early ballot in Espanola today was told he had already voted 3 days prior.
Activist on the tape goes on to suggest that discarded ballots could be collected from what she called Ghetto Aurora, saying that African Americans and Mexicans tend to throw out their ballots.
And as for those programs we do need, I'll make them work better and I'll make them cost less.
Thousands of federal workers are issued taxpayer-funded credit cards so long as they buy items that cost less than $3,000 or micro purchases. Our review found about $20 billion in just about the course of a year.
We'll save billions by cutting waste and improving management and strengthening oversight.
We asked all of these other major federal agencies based here in D.C. for their micro purchase shopping lists, and all refused.
I'm pledging to cut the deficit we inherited by half by the end of my first term in office.
The Independent Congressional Budget Office warning a new fiscal crisis is coming if Washington doesn't get its spending in check.
Raising the debt ceiling, which has been done over 100 times, does not increase our debt. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Live from the InfoWars.com studios.
First, Ebola is not spread through the air like the flu.
Ebola is capable of entering human airway cells. Ebola is primed to be able to have respiratory transmission.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation, it's Alex Jones. You are either with the Republic or against it.
And welcome back to InfoWars, continuing coverage of the elections 2014. I'm joined by Miss Leanne McAdoo, a Twitter favorite. Everybody's talking about Leanne on Twitter, on Facebook. It's her and Alex are the most popular people, but it's good. You know, we're glad to see everybody is coming out because we have such a strong male dominance. It's nice to have the ladies who come out and can handle their own.
They liked the gun piece. They like to see the women out there learning how to handle the big guns.
Yes, learning how to handle the big guns. And since we're talking about the social media, this is a good time to go to John Bound over there in Studio B. Can you hear me, John?
I've got you there, Jakari. And as it stands now, I guess you got me?
Yes.
As it stands now, the most interesting event going on is in Illinois, where a man who's going to run Illinois like a business has taken over from a former candidate who took over for the former candidate who went to jail, Rod Blago, I can never say his name right, Governor Blagojevich, who's doing time right now. Now, Rauner's main base is billionaires, so Illinois is in good hands, just like the rest of the country. Now, there's 9 new tweets here. Maybe somebody's going to say hello to Leanne. We've got, of course, Florida didn't pass the medical marijuana, as everyone expected.
But D.C. did.
But D.C. did.
So maybe the elected representatives won't have such a power trip. They'll peace out there for a little while.
Right, and people, unfortunately, shouldn't get too excited about medical marijuana because they're taxing the Obama juice out of medical marijuana up to over 100% in some cases, but at least 70%. So they need to change that law that's been on the books since, was it 1983 or something like that, where they're allowed to tax if you have an outside grower provide you the medical marijuana. In order for you to make a profit, you have to grow it yourself. Let's see what we have here on Twitter. 2 new tweets, come on. Charlie Crist leaves the stage after conceding, and we need to come together as a state. No, not too many questions yet, but I will keep you informed.
Yeah, that's good to know, John Bound. And I know we have a lot of races. We were recently talking about the governor's race here in the state of Texas. Do you see anything else on the governor's page? Any other people being officially elected to their state government?
Well, yeah, we have governor election results right here, and as you know, the Senate race is just out of control Republican-wise. And let's see, the latest in the governor race, the 2014 governor election results. We're still battling here in Kansas, which is a very close race between Brownback and Davis, and Brownback's an incumbent. Colorado, a very interesting race where the incumbent looks like he may actually end up losing. So maybe as far as Colorado's medical marijuana laws are concerned, there may be an issue there, but that remains to be seen. And very close race in Idaho, as well as Oregon, which is now reporting very close races. Democrat is in the lead in Oregon, as expected, and those are the races that we're looking at right now.
All right, well, thank you, John Bound. We'll come back to you at the end of our segment. We know you have a new special report that you want to premiere, so we'll get back with John in just a few minutes. But first, Leanne, let's talk a little bit about voter fraud.
Yeah.
We've had a chance to talk to James O'Keefe, many other people as well, Greg Palast. And, James O'Keefe illustrated so eloquently how easy it is just to walk into a polling place and assume somebody's identity. It's not even so much, you steal somebody's, physical identity. You don't have to steal their social security card or driver's license. You can just go in and say, hey, maybe that should be the next thing. I go in and say, hey, I'm Leanne McAdoo. And it's, oh, well, there. If you know her address, hey, you can go ahead and vote. Not here in the state of Texas, but other places as well.
Maybe you transitioned, do you know what I mean? It'd be really racist and sexist for them to question if you were not Leanne McAdoo.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true as well. Let's go ahead and look at our first article here. We see video. Votes for Republicans switch to Democrats in Illinois. And I do believe we do have a video of that.
There's so many people been taking video inside the voting booth, just showing they're trying to take, vote for a Republican, and it's just instantly choosing for them the Democratic candidate.
Right.
And we see that in Maryland, in Virginia, in Illinois. I know there we go. That's, just over and over again.
There's no voter fraud. What are you talking? That's a Republican conspiracy theory.
Yeah, well, and that's what they say is that that's so rare. Voter fraud is so rare. Well, then I guess, what also is so rare is that someone in this day and age doesn't have any form of identification to be able to go in and vote with it. That seems even more rare to me.
Yes, that is exactly right. Let's keep it moving here. We'll talk about Maryland Board of Elections probe Republican to Democrat ballot switch claims.